Welcome back to the Dynasty Dingers podcast. We are recording on Monday, August 26th. Is it the 26th today? Yes, it is, Doc. 26th today. For our new listeners, Dynasty Dingers is a Scout the Stat Line podcast. If you are a member, we thank you. If you are not a member, make sure to
Hate
pop on
you.
over to scoutthestatline.com, where you will find prospect models, weekly and monthly articles covering prospects, major leaguers, trades, drafts, and all things baseball, including our rankings. On today's show, Doc and I are going to cover risers and fallers in dynasty drafts, especially for startups. Just going to hit on some of the names that have made big strides, either positively or negatively this year. So we'll have a lot of names that we're going to throw your way. But Doc, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. If anyone can hear that, that is the jungle. I'm recording live from the jungle of Indiana. Yeah, so many bugs out. It's good though. I'm happy. It's like 90 degrees. Whatever, man. This will be cold soon, and I won't be as happy. It's gonna be. I'll be all bundled up in a coat. We'll have to figure out a schedule, folks. I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm putting Matt on the spot right now. We're doing this definitely not once a week throughout the off season, but we will keep this going. I think we got to keep this going.
Yeah, keep it going.
Yeah.
Off season's fun because there's just endless conversations to have. And this podcast today kind of kicks that off, right? Like we're going to talk risers and fallers, which will even change by the time we hit December. But yeah, dude, I forget the Midwest in August. It literally is like a swamp jungle. I miss that. And I also totally don't miss that.
Yeah, I know it's interesting, right? I'm trying to keep my perspective sharp as much as possible by smoking an indefinite amount of cigars and drinking some whiskey. I don't recommend alcoholism. That is not good. But, just a little bit for taste. Anyway, but beyond that, man, it's like in the middle of winter, man. I've done my Canadian winters. Folks, if you haven't been following the plot, I am an overcompensating Canadian immigrant American citizen now, and I've done my winters. I've done my cold. Maybe you feel like that sometimes coming from Milwaukee or Wisconsin to Vegas, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna move back next May, but we're gonna do dual living. We're gonna live in the Midwest during the summer and then come back in like November.
Nice, you're 80 years old.
I don't like. Don't get me wrong. We're not like rich. We're gonna figure out a lifestyle that allows us to do so. Because, to what you just said, I hate the Midwest from basically January through April, and I hate Vegas basically from April until October. So it's like, why be somewhere where we're not happy? We'll cater our lives to that, but it's interesting because winters have changed. It's not like it was when we were kids, when it was snow twice a week, it got cold. Now I feel like it's really just that bitter cold, and you may have 3 or 4 snowfalls. Would you say that's fair?
I don't know, man. I feel like it's different every year. And when I was a kid, I lived in Canada. I don't know what to say anymore because I'm in Indiana now. But there's way
Yeah, it's
less snow.
different.
There's way less snow here during the winter than Canada. Canada, it's like it's winter from October to April or even May sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, you can have some summer days in October, even November sometimes,
Yep.
and then you're coming out of it as early as March. So
Yeah, and you're
honestly, it's
kicking
not
off.
that bad. But I become such a bit of a grumpy guy in February.
Yeah, same. That's why I left. I couldn't do it anymore. All right, Doc, we're going to break into it. We got a lot of names to go over today. And again, we're going to be going over risers, fallers, stocks up, stocks down. And I want to start off with the young group, the hot shots that came into the year, the guys that we really dedicated a lot of our time to breaking down and trying to project. It's going to be the young kids of Churio, Wood, Holiday, Caminero, Langford, and now Dylan Cruz today, who's making his major league debut. I wanted to just get a temperature of where you think these guys' stocks are at, who you like the most moving forward of the group, and maybe what you need to see if from a few of them for them to actually make good on their prospect pedigree.
Well, man, I mean, this year it's tough to say. These are different. First of all, these are different kinds of guys. Different backgrounds, different ages. I'm super impressed with Jackson Churio. To be honest, I was a little bit behind the industry. I was never like, this guy's a dud, but I just looked at his profile and I thought, well, I don't know if he'll have that high OBP I like. I don't know if he'll be as polished, have as polished of a hit tool even, and maybe he doesn't. And it doesn't. He's proving it doesn't really matter. He's just like such an explosive kind of player that he's hitting the ball. He's making it happen. And he's only 20. I don't know if he's still 20 years old, but he's a youngin, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and basically living up to the hype. And then Holiday, he's a weird guy, right? He came up struggling, then came back up, and looked like, oh my gosh, this is the next guy. Now he's kind of back to struggling again, and again, it's unfortunate because I really wanted to help me in the playoff push on one team, but it's going to be a roller coaster ride. What we're learning here, there's a bunch of names here, but it's patience. I think we got to, I feel like I haven't heard. Maybe you could correct me here if maybe I'm wrong. I feel like James Wood is not getting as much recognition as he should. I'm looking at his numbers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say, and I would argue, out of this list, take Churio out of the equation because he's had a full year. Langford too, right? Langford's had a full year. Wood probably has flashed the most exciting tools of the Holiday Caminero. We'll toss Cruz in there. It's not really fair since he's had 2 at bats so far. But Wood's numbers are good. His exit velocities are amazing. His launch angle could improve, but Wood has looked really good.
What I'm seeing down here, though, is there's an interesting stat that they're not gonna care right now, but they might when they get competitive again. 7 stolen bases, 7 caught stealing
Mm,
for Woods. So if that keeps up, we might see. This is something with 6'7", 234. I think this is a guy where if you can capitalize, ride his wave until he's like 25, 26, 27. I think around that, that's even a little bit late, maybe. I don't know. Ride his wave for the next few years if he can actually do like a 30-30 kind of thing. I don't see him aging as a speed guy,
no, I
especially
agree. I
if
agree.
he's getting caught like that at this level. That's actually not a good start to begin with. That might never happen. So he's hitting the ball great. He's getting on base great. That's what matters most. And he's hitting home runs. So if he can just keep doing that, he'll be a fantasy guy for a while. But if you're banking on him for steals, maybe we temper our expectations. If I had to be a negative Nancy on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you said it best. Like most young speed profiles, bigger body, it slows down at some point, right? And I think you could even say the same thing as Ellie gets 26, 27, 28. Like as they get older, their body fills out a little bit. We've seen it time and time again. Wood should be the same way. I think that's maybe where Churio and Holiday differ. I don't know that their bodies are going to develop in the same way. They may keep that total package profile into age 30. But James Wood right now, he's been 280 with 5 home runs. Like he to me is and also going higher in dynasty drafts. I feel like when I just took than Holiday and Caminero, but Caminero just flashing some really amazing tools in LA. What are your thoughts on just the brief time he's shown in the big leagues?
I mean, it's brief. So, if we just stopped, if we just, honestly, isn't it kind of interesting if Jackson Holiday had tragically gotten injured, just a little thing, like, but maybe it's his hand and he's out for the season after his opening hot streak on his second call up. How much higher is his stock right now? His stock is dipping. I think we saw enough. I think we saw enough at the major league level where we're like, okay, he can do it. Okay, there's something here. So we're not as panicked as we were the first time, not nearly feeling the same way. Or I wouldn't even say I didn't really panic, but his stock went down. And so you could just feel it in the air. Flip side, right now, if Caminero was to just like end the season right now, we have 2 fresh home runs in our brain. We're like, yeah, man, what a stud. He's got some time left, if it's
Yep.
gonna hit and baseball's such a weird sport, man. It's so funny. We're at an interesting point of the year right now, 1 month left. And we spend basically a big chunk of the season saying, "Oh, there's tons of baseball left." Now there's not. But now by the time there's not, people start moving on to fantasy football. They start getting some some fatigue in their leagues. If they're not as competitive as you or I, absolute studs. But the no the
Well,
Caminero though. Well, I
to
was
your
just gonna
point
say that
though,
a guy like Caminero, he's still got more to prove because this is basically his spring. This is his April, I should say.
yeah, yeah, to that point, this is his first call up of the season, right? Look at
Mm-hmm.
how that worked for Holiday. Look how the first few months for Churio went. The first few months, I guess the whole season for Langford, he has been injured. Cruz has just not had a great game so far today. Just struck out with against Nasty Nestor. These kids are young, right? And we've been saying that all year. We've been continuing to push that narrative. And we are at the point of the season with what you were saying. We're more focused on who has the double start this week. What are their matchups, right? Am I really starting Andrew Heaney on a double start this week? Those are the things that I think actually are being talked about within the fantasy baseball world, less so than the which one of these prospects is actually looking like a real pick going into next year. Before we move on, I just wanted to give the order in which they were taken in one of my startups. It went Wood, Churio, Caminero, Holiday, and then Langford. I thought that was really interesting because, as you and I have both talked, Langford was going above these guys earlier this year, if not last offseason. Things have changed just a little bit.
And they will change again.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you just said, what if Caminero comes out with a September where he has 8 home runs, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh yeah.
or
Or
he hits
or zero.
180. Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, if he struggles, I expect them to demote him and hold on to his rookie eligibility.
Yes.
I still am perplexed as to why they called him up. I'm still just thinking they're going to demote him no matter what, but we'll see. Okay, Doc. Next group is the 2025 returners. And I have a list of guys here. You can add anyone to the list if you want, but a lot of these guys are returning from Tommy John. Some of them we'll see. Well, I know one of them we'll see to finish out the 2024 season, but Felix Bautista, Sandy Alcantara, Shane McClanahan, Jacob deGrom, Yuri Perez, Shane Bieber. I do have Manoah's name on here, who I don't think will be back next year. So he's more 2026. Out of this group, who are you willing to take a draft pick on? And who do you think bounces back for the longest or most value of their career moving
Did you
forward?
intentionally make all these guys pitchers?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'll
Yes.
keep it to this list. I'm also just trying to see down here. I could have sworn I had some devastating injuries. I mean, you could put Andrew Painter in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but out of those guys, Yuri's the guy. Yuri is, I got him and Andrew Painter in one league,
I
and I'm
love
like,
that.
hey, just stay healthy, guys. We got some fun on the way.
Well, the beauty in that too is like they've already had the surgery. So hopefully you've got 3 or 4 years. That's my thought.
Hopefully, yeah. So these guys, it's tough, man. I don't know what. I don't know what to make of injury pitchers. DeGrom, I can get behind watching him as a baseball fan. I can't get behind taking him at anything other than an extreme value. McClanahan, I guess we'll see what he can do. He's still pretty young. He's like 27, 28.
McClanahan, I want to say 26, 27. This is
That's
his
good.
second TJ though.
Okay, yeah, I had a feeling there was something like that because my
So
brain has subconsciously been off of him. Felix
yeah,
Bautista, I kind of ripped on him for not deep, but on one of our last podcasts, maybe our last podcast, because he got picked in our league. And I'm like, dude, well, he's going to come back and probably he will immediately be the closer again for the Orioles, an elite team who aren't going anywhere. So no, that's a pretty valuable guy.
you took him?
No, someone else did it.
Lewis took him. It was
Yeah,
Lewis.
I made
Yeah,
an
it was Lewis.
offhand remark. I'm like, oh, who's picking Bautista? That's a silly pick. And I thought about it for 5 seconds, and I said, no, that's a good pick.
You're like, damn it, why did I open my mouth? It is a good pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless control's a problem. And then he loses the job, which is a problem for guys coming into their first recovered season at TJ, right? Like that's I'm not trying to poo-poo the pick. I like Bautista a lot. I have him in a lot of leagues.
Mm-hmm.
But the concern is control. Like if he can't control the zone next year, he won't be the closer.
Well, I don't know. The Orioles don't have anyone who has control, apparently. So
That's a good
that's
point.
what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's going to be the guy because no one else is stepping up. So, There you go. Easy way to walk in. And Shane Bieber, I'm interested in him. I just don't know what to make of him. He's such a weird guy. He's like he's injured, then he's not, and then I don't know, man. He seems like I can't trust him.
He hasn't been
And then
right.
he'll go for 200 innings, you know.
Yeah, he
But
hasn't been right since 2020, and I'm
yeah,
hoping that this Tommy John is something that was needed for an extended period of time, and he comes back and can just be an ace. But if he can't be an ace, if he can't be the 2020 version of Bieber with the velocity that we saw, to your point, hopefully he can be a top 30 starting pitcher, kind of fringe 30, and give you 200 innings. I think that's what he's been. So why should we expect any different, right?
yeah. I'll give you a quick hitter list of 3 guys who I think that they're gonna be back this year in September.
You got the
But
finger in here.
what's that?
You put the finger in here. Yeah, you know what I mean? For your last one there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Drew Thorpe, Reese Olson, Ryan Weathers. Man, yeah. It's so weird. I remember Robbie Ray had I'm scared of flexor now. Flexor strain was what Thorpe had. I remember Robbie Ray was diagnosed with a strained flexor. Next thing you know, he had Tommy John. I'm like, what? I guess.
Screwball had the flexor surgery too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yes, but did that take him out a year?
Took him out. Yeah. I want to. I'd have to go back and
I'm
look, but
thinking with Ray, it must have just been a weird blurb thing, or either I missed it, or they just communicated a weird. I'm thinking it was flexor. They thought it was, and then they looked deeper, and they're like, "Oh no, you need TJ."
well,
I'm
dude,
thinking,
look at May. It was like Tommy John then flexor.
mm,
He was the opposite.
okay,
But Dustin May's movement is just it's unhuman. So it's kind of to be expected.
yeah. So those 3 guys, though, I mean, I don't know what the frig happened. I've never heard of this. The finger
I
strain.
know.
If I'm scared of Ryan Weathers, it's one thing, dude. Is this a freak injury, or are you just made of glass? I don't get it. I don't
It's
know.
got to be it's got to be like the Kyle Tucker shin. Cuz
Yeah,
like
yeah.
both of them are kind of like what the heck happened?
Really weird. And so, yeah, it's kind of really annoying with guys like Thorpe. Thorpe was terrible timing because, and then you have to ask yourself that blow up. I think he had 1
Mhm.
or 2 blow ups in a row, and now you have to ask yourself, was he playing hurt? Because a guy who's already not, he's a rookie pitcher. It's hard as it is. He was cruising. Everyone forgot he was cruising for like 5 or 6 starts. It started to seem like, oh, he's a guy. He's a pitcher. He's getting it done, and then blow up, out for probably the season. So I think you're going to get him at a great deal next year. Nobody seems to remember that Ryan Weathers was starting to put it back together. Heck, Reese Olson's still not even really he's getting the most respect out of those 3, but he was playing great. His numbers on the season are fantastic, and just thank God I think he had a shoulder strain or yeah. So I mean, thank God. In fact, these guys, specifically Thorpe and Olson, are even talking about coming back this year. I think that means they'll be pretty
Encouraging.
good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen what Detroit is doing with their rotation right now?
No, I've been
They're
on the road for 8 days, and so
dude,
I finally got back to town to watch baseball Saturday night. I'm like, let's sit down and watch my guys, my Middle America teams, the Cardinals, Rangers, Royals. I kind of like them a bit more than the others, and they all got shellacked like 10-0. It was ridiculous. So what's going on in Detroit?
so they're running a 2-man rotation with a 3-man opener bullpen situation.
Not good.
And I was shocked when I saw that, but that's just kind of good to go with their injuries, right? Manning out, Maya's out, who is coming back, Olson out, Maeda horrendous,
Yeah.
traded Jack Flaherty, so they don't have any pitchers left. Ty Madden got called up to start tonight, which I'm not currently watching that game. I would be interested to see how he did or is going to do tonight. But yeah, I do like that list. I have 2 more names that I want your opinion on. So Garrett Cole out about 2.5, 3 months with the elbow inflammation, the pinched nerve, no UCL damage. And then we have the news break in the last week about Hunter Green, who was having a breakout season. Triple imaging, triple opinions, came back with just elbow inflammation, no damage to the UCL. Who are you willing to take going into the 2025 season in redraft? And then for Dynasty, does this change your opinion that you had on Hunter Green 2 weeks ago?
I think it was an article by Scott Pianowski on Yahoo back in the day. I'm a Yahoo OG, and it could have been baseball, could have been football, could have been both. And he said something like, "You want to save yourself some headache, guys? Don't draft injured players. your players are going to get injured. Why would you start off with guys who are already hurt? And so you can miss out on guys like that, of course. And certainly if there's value plays, yeah, buy low on that. Robbie Ray was that this year. It looks like he's somewhat paying off. He's having a little bit of uneven results, but we're seeing flashes of greatness. Yeah, man, I would say that I'm not really targeting either guy. I would target Cole more, but again, like, are we getting that full value next year? Are people forgetting about it? How is his arm okay? He's a big boy, you know. I guess maybe he's a tough guy. He's known as a gritty pitcher, so you have to wonder, is he just able to plow through it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not targeting either with so many other options available.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer. And to Cole's perspective, you're right. Right. We're expecting a deep run in October for the Yankees as well. He's had up and down results too. He's had some walk issues. He's had nice strikeout dominant performances, and velocity seems to be back. There's more time for Cole to, I think, solidify in our minds a secured pick going into next year than with Hunter Green, who presumably will have 1 or 2 starts if he even comes back this year. And that's going to be on people's minds come draft season. But good conversation there. Next one is interesting. So I left Jackson Merrill's name out of the initial Young Guns conversation, kind of for a reason. I think he is the best performer, at least so far. Whether you think you want him over the other guys in Dynasty is a completely different conversation. I just more or less wanted to ask you, have Jackson Merrill as well as Neto for the Angels. I don't know that these two are that drastically far apart long term. What are your thoughts?
I think that Jackson Merrill's got a stronger hit tool. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's such an interesting profile. It's kind of like what I thought it would be with more power, which makes him more exciting. Jackson Merrill.
Mm-hmm.
I stand by it in that in OBP leagues, he kind of, if you're in a pure OBP league, like not OPS or anything like that, kind of is a minor liability. You still like to have him on your team, but 319 OBP, it's not what you want from your stars. Meanwhile, if you flip it around, batting average only league, that's Jackson Merrill's a weird guy for fantasy, right? It's like he's almost batting 290 right now. He's probably, like, if that's who he is, and he's going to get better as he ages, Jackson Merrill will likely hit 300 average in his career at some point. So, and that means his OBP will probably go up. Yeah, I mean he's a stud. Meanwhile, and yeah, so we're looking at more power than I think most people thought would be in play. If he was only a 15 home run kind of guy, his numbers aren't as interesting to me, but he's looking more like he might be a 25 home run guy, which is super exciting. On the flip side of things, Nito. Yeah, man. I mean, you get kind of more. You have more juice with Nito. You have probably maybe equal pop or a little bit. I don't know, maybe a little bit more. You have more. You have more willingness to run, more speed. I'm not sure actually what their metrics are for speed, but you're looking at more willingness to run at the very least. And yeah, I do like. It's interesting because I have so much more faith in Jackson Merrill's hit tool, but you see, yeah, Zach Nito is like just slightly getting on base a little bit more. It really just shows you the importance of format when we're talking about prospects and players in general. I'd rather have Jackson Merrill long term. Again, if it was a pure OBP league, yeah, you could definitely. I would probably go Nito. Probably that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. So I guess you are correct. The answer would be they're not
It's
that far
tough.
apart.
It's
But
tough.
in a league where averages count, so I personally I have a home league where we have categories of both average and OBP. So in that league, I would want Merrill just because that's such an asset to have such a strong batting average.
So I'm going to throw some metrics at you. I think everything you said is backed up by what I'm going to kind of reiterate here. The big thing for me and why I brought this up in the 12 man that I'm currently doing, which is, we're drafting. It's a 12 man. It's not that competitive. We like to do 12s or 14s, 16s, 30s. But I think it's a good gauge. Jackson Merrill went pick 24, which is pretty good for a dynasty startup, right? We really like what Jackson Merrill has done this year. Well, in comparison, Neto went about 150 picks later.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this conversation is important because that's a massive difference for similar numbers. Now, Jackson Merrill profiles as the better athlete. He has higher exit velocities. He has slightly higher sprint speeds at 82 percentile, where Neto is 74 percentile. Exit velocities, Merrill's about 90.5, Neto's at 88.3. The big difference is, and we've seen this a lot, especially with right-handed hitters, Neto's ability to tap into that pull side power is pretty incredible. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of his 19 home runs have all been like pull to the pole, almost pull to, like, let's say pull to 30 feet over. And that's really showing in his numbers. And as where you have Merrill, where I think you have more projectability, you have more star power, but Neto is definitely giving and getting the most out of his ability. And I think in dynasty drafts, you could take Neto kind of in that range that I talked about and feel pretty good. Whereas Merrill, you definitely are drafting with the hope that he can tap into some more. And I think there's definitely showcases of more to come, but I don't know that there's a whole lot. Yeah, I think what you said is perfect. Maybe 25 power.
Yeah, I mean, something else we haven't mentioned yet is, do we trust the Angels to field a strong team versus the Padres? So it's something that's a really important thing. So let me look at their numbers right now. So what are their games played here? They played the exact same amount of games. Not as big of a difference as you'd think. So 57 runs for Nito, 65 for Merrill. That's weird. That's kind of a little bit weird.
Home runs are even. Stolen bases are definitely in Nito's.
Yep.
But average is definitely in Merrill. Yeah.
But the RBIs are stronger for Merrill. Merrill is also, yeah, wow. So Nito's got that doubles power too. He's hitting more doubles. But then Merrill's legging out those 6 triples on the year. Such impressive speed as well. So yeah, I mean, I think what we're learning here is pretty much similar. I stick to my guns of batting average league. Merrill is like, he's up an upper. He becomes an upper echelon target.
Yeah.
Versus yeah.
OBP, I think you go Neto just for the steals. You have more steals.
Probably.
And
the value where you're getting him and how much he's costing you.
Yeah, and that's the conversation piece, right? Like, it's not even close. It's not like, oh, who do you take in the second round? It's like, do you take Merrill in the second round or do you take Neto in the 6th?
Yeah, who could you have instead of Merrill in the second round? Is the value proposition.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Just for perspective, Bryce Harper went right after. Churio went right before. So
yeah, I'm taking Harper, dude.
Yeah, well, it went Harper, Lindor, Freddie Freeman, Tristan Casas, Junior Caminero, Jackson Holiday. I think I'm taking all of those guys. Maybe Holiday and Casas. Casas, I wouldn't. I'll take Merrill over Casas. Holiday and Merrill, I think, is a really interesting conversation.
I'd take Holiday over Merrill for sure.
Same.
For sure.
Langford or Merrill?
Langford.
Interesting.
I just think that, yeah, if Merrill gets to the 300 style, he could be like he could really be a 300 batting average, like 333 OBP guy, which is fine. It's like, again, like a good Kerry Carpenter kind of style bat for like OBP purposes, But
gosh, it's just crazy to hear those names because he is such a better real life player. Like Jackson Merrill's, I think, is superstar player.
Yeah.
But for fantasy, when you really look at data, it's like, well, is he?
Yeah. No, it just depends on your format. Like Alec Burleson, you play Alec Burleson in an OBP league, it's very different. Guy doesn't walk, right? Versus this helicopter coming overhead. But this guy in an average league, much more of an asset.
Yeah. Interesting little dive there. I wanted us to take and kind of just go over real quick. So great for that. Some next questions that I just had with doing some of these startups that we're doing together. You and I are in a 30-man right now, and as I mentioned, the 12-man. Acuna is still being taken with the 5th or 6th pick. I find that really interesting. I would not myself take him with the ACL risks. I wanted to know if you are scared away from him, especially at that price range.
So let's take a look. I have my tabs up here. Let's see where we all picked here. So in our league, we're doing a 30 team, is it?
Yeah. 30. Yep.
30 team Dynasty startup. And Acuna went, gosh, this freaking
1. He went 1-1.
What? Yeah, not doing that.
yeah, he went 1-1. I was shocked.
Yeah, and I was like, why can't I find him? I'm like, oh, that's why. Yeah, no, I mean Julio Rodriguez at 7. Okay, we'll talk about that after. If we could like segue into that, what do you think about Julio? I'd be interested. But
I'm not taking him over Judge because that's who I took. I took Judge at 8. When he went 7, I was like,
yeah, so I take him over. Yeah, so Acuna, I think we're in danger. So we're not in danger because he's going 1.1, but like we don't want to really kick him out of the top 10 either. So who would I take over him that went here? Sorry. Who would I?
yes.
So
Who would you take
Julio,
him
I want him
over?
over Julio. I want him over Tatis. I want him over Corbin Carroll. I want him over Tucker. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's somewhere in it's. I that's where it gets interesting. Is the so I guess at this point I got to take Judge over him. So I think it's like that. It gets interesting with Skeens.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to ask you. Do you take Paul Skeens over Ronald Acuna?
That's crazy. I don't know.
I do. I do.
Okay.
I don't know that's the right answer, but like you said it right with the advice you got from the guy from Yahoo. You don't take injured players.
In Dynasty startup though, now like it depends on what you're doing. Because if you take
But
Acuna,
it's the
how old is
second
Acuna?
AC. If it is a second ACL, if this were the first ACL, like it was, no problem, right?
He's
We're
not a
taking
running
Acuna.
back though. He's not like getting.
Yeah,
He's
but
26.
I don't know. We haven't seen enough of it in baseball, right? Because even in football, you have a second ACL tear. Guys come back, it's like a second Tommy John, and they're like, okay, I'm good. Like
Unless Peterson. You remember Adrian Peterson?
yeah, but Peterson also came back after like 4 months. It was really like 6. He changed the entire parameters of what expectations were for an ACL.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess Skeens is the play. So you said you would rather have Acuna over Julio Rodriguez at 7,
Yes.
Fernando Tatis at 9,
Yes.
Carroll at 11, and Tucker at 12, but Skeens at
Everyone
10.
else. I'd rather have him over
Okay.
over I think everyone else there.
And I think that's fair. You're right. Skeens is hard. Judge should have gone 7.
The ceiling. We have to remember. You have to remember the ceiling is the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
And that's remember. And I'll say this: remember Aaron Judge coming into this year with all the foot talk, right? And people were scared off. He went later, man. He was going like sometimes outside top 10s in mocks or, startups.
He's having arguably the best season since Bonds.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Next on the list. Why are we still taking Fernando Tatis in the first round? I probably could have baked this into our last one. Why are we taking him in the first round?
Let's make this a Julio Rodriguez as well.
Yeah. Because I'm scared off, right? Like we just talked. Would you rather have Corbin Carroll than Julio Rodriguez?
Dude, I hate missing even a single week out of the baseball year. It's like you can have all the sample size in the world, but I always want to know what's going on lately. So I was on the road. I've basically been out of the baseball world. I've been feeling it in my bones that Carroll's been improving. I see he's not stealing bases really, which is pretty weird. But in the last month we got Carroll's going 1 stolen base, 8 homers. See, our format's all messed up because we got point system. I'm on that draft right now, so I can't see what his actual ratios are there. But yeah, so I think Carroll over Julio Rodriguez. Yeah, man. I mean, it was just crazy because a few months ago you're like, oh no, anyone but Carroll, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I'd have to dig deeper. I want to dig deeper into the numbers. I haven't done the dive as to what's up with Julio. I was kind of hoping you could tell me. But he's Tatis. Tatis is actually not having like a terrible season. You seem to hate him right now. What's up with that?
Well, I just feel like he's been out with the quad injury,
Yeah.
which is hard. He's only played 80 games. They're expecting him to come back in September, but I have him in a redraft. I'm a little salty about it. He hasn't been the same player since the PED suspension and the wrist injury.
He seems to keep getting hurt.
Yeah, he keeps getting hurt, and that's something that we've especially seen with guys that test positive for PEDs. It seems as though when they come back, once they're not taking PEDs, the body just doesn't recover the way it used to. So that's a big question mark for me. Now, Julio Rodriguez doesn't have the same questions. He did have an ankle sprain from catching a ball on the warning track and crashing into the wall, which is an amazing catch. Like you can't fault a guy for that. But if you look at last season, it was an incredibly hot 2 months that saved his overall slash line. This year, we don't have those same numbers. We didn't have that hot finish. maybe he's just a second half hitter. And if that's the case, that's okay. But that second half was hampered by his injury this year. So am I really going to take Julio Rodriguez, who's a second half hitter, over Corbin Carroll, who has, even in a very down year, proven to be able to bounce back, which I like a lot. I think the real question mark here, Doc, is Kyle Tucker. Like, this shin injury and the mystery attached to it. Like, are you comfortable with the 4 or 5 years of continued success from Tucker to take him over Rodriguez, or are you scared away by this mystery injury?
What a weird player, man. Basically, these are three guys I've never really touched in any league.
Same.
It's just happened to be. That's why I might sound to people a little bit unsure. I've just always kind of Tatis. There's always been high price tags, not always, but since they've been good, there's been high price tags associated. So sometimes you just don't have those guys if you didn't buy in early enough. And Tucker, weird guy. And again, so he was a weird guy of like OBP. I wasn't sure who he was. He kind of looked like he might be a low OBP guy. This year, he's almost 400 OBP, which is insane. And now then his shin implodes. I don't know. Is that like a thing that lingers? He's been a pretty durable guy the last few years. So I would think no, but I want to know what's going on. I don't understand is this really a shin injury? Is it ligaments? Are his bones disintegrating? Does anyone know?
No, people are speculating that it was a fracture and they didn't catch it. And the speculation is that every time he tried to come back or he tried to like walk, it re-aggravated, which I think is rational. But it's hard because the team hasn't come out and given any solidified answers, which is probably because at this point they're looking at it from a liability perspective. This is Kyle Tucker's free agent year, if I'm correct, or maybe next year is. So there's a lot of like, please don't sue us for malpractice, I feel like, as well.
Okay.
That's my own personal logic in it. Like, if you diagnose a guy with a bone bruise and he's out 3 months, something was wrong. It wasn't right. But his numbers were insane. I mean, 60 games on the year, 19 home runs. He had more walks at 46 walks to strikeouts, which was 41. You mentioned the 266 average, which is okay, but 395 OBP and a 584 slug. Like, he was on an MVP course. Weirdly enough, the Astros season did turn around after his injury. Perplexing player in Tucker.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just a weird guy. I'd take Tucker over Julio, and frankly, probably Tatis at this point.
Yep. For me, it's easy. I don't know that the 10 stolen bases in 60 games, we're gonna have to see once that shin heals if he's the same guy.
Yeah, that's good.
But I mean, he was on a 50 home run, 25 stolen base pace. That was his pace.
Alert! 3-game hitting streak for Victor Scott. Alert! 3 out of 4 games with a hit.
It was a good series between Milwaukee and St. Louis. It would have been more enjoyable had the Cardinals been closer to the Brewers. But a lot of frustration with St. Louis. A lot of the fans. I had a tweet that I sent out. Like, at this point, you're pretty dialed in with the Cardinals. Is it time for an overhaul organizationally, GM, coach, everything, or are you still giving them a little bit of patience with Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, some of the downfalls in their development?
I got some pushback. Not really. It was mostly a popular tweet, but with Quinn Matthews being brought up, I said I predict within 2 weeks, okay. Which is bold. And it's pretty clear to me he's leapfrogged Tin Cans. Dude, this guy's durable, right? He went for, he went for big innings last year. He's been
they pitched him like in the
8th. Pardon?
He was the guy that threw 160 pitches in the game.
Yeah.
We know he's, like you just said, he's got a rubber arm.
Yeah, which is crazy because he's super skinny. Put some meat on your bones, son. Well, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it either. I just saw him. He went 7.2 the other day in the minors. What are we doing, right? What are we saving it for? What are we using it for? Maybe be the better way to put it. So these guys, they call him Mozeliak, I guess how you say it, is he's basically the guy who runs the front office for the Cards, and then Ollie Marmol, he's he's a manager. These guys are they're on the hot seat, and they have guys like Goldschmidt and Arenado who are the old cornerstones, right? And then you have the prospects not really working out. Victor Scott is really genuinely showing life lately, which is so cool. As you may know, I like that guy. And so it's been a tough year. They're not out of it. They're like still 5 games out of the wild card, and it's not like they have a terrible, terrible team on paper. So I think you're going to see them not give up, and I think I'm not sure how the Quinn Matthews thing really works. Maybe as bullpen help. Why not? Why not? They're like, oh, we have Matz and Lynn coming back, Steven Matz and Lance Lynn. I'm like, gosh, is that actually a good thing? I don't know. At some point, I feel like you have to see some kind of desperate measures here for the Cardinals to do what they can. I'm hearing talks that they're going to bring back Goldie again next year. It's like he's had a terrible season. Everything I'm saying sounds like disaster. Yet they're only 5 games out of the wild card. Take a look at their schedule when you have some spare time. I'm not going to go over it right now, but they basically have to survive these next 2 series, which is San Diego and the New York Yankees. Not easy. If they can split those series, their schedule is basically like Seattle, Colorado, San Francisco. It's like not that hard. They haven't really been consistently beating teams like that this year, but that's a long way of saying there is a chance you see these guys in playoffs. And if you don't, which is also a good chance of happening, I wouldn't be surprised to see a complete overhaul.
Well, I think that's what's so frustrating for Cardinal fans is, you're 5 games out. Say they do make the playoffs. Does that really fix what's actually going on within the organization? Jordan Walker gets called up after having a really nice 2-week stretch in the minor leagues. They give him 13 at-bats before they send him back down. Victor Scott brought up, to start the year because of an injury, not the organization's fault, not Victor's fault, definitely wasn't ready, right? We thought he wasn't. He comes back up. They have stuck with him, but they've stuck with him because they've kind of had to. And thankfully, he's starting to show life. I think the big question mark is, especially for the St. Louis fans, what happens with Jordan Walker? Why bring back Goldschmidt if you could just give Jordan the job, give him that confidence that it's his job, let him play as he was playing, but instead you're going to bring back a 36, 37-year-old because, hey, we made the playoffs last year. We got, either swept or we lost in 3 games in the wild card round because their starters are not good, right? Quinn Matthews, we talked about this. He might be their second best starting pitcher right now.
Yeah.
But yet they have this money invested in some of the older guys. That kind of brings us into one of the last segments that we're going to talk about today, which is actually third base and some of the older players that have been perennially the top at the position. Nolan Arenado is going to be one of these names. So Manny Machado, Nolan Arenado, and Alex Bregman. The question, especially with context for redraft leagues, is their time over? And if not, what are your thoughts on each player?
Well, I mean, it's been a really weird year for Arenado. He's actually been hitting the ball kind of decent in terms of getting on base, but the power he just hasn't been there. It's not so. It certainly feels like his defense is fine. It feels like it's the beginning of the end. He's 33 now. He'll be 34 next April. And say what you will about Goldie. The dude is 36. Turning 37. It's like. Yeah, it's time probably, right? But he's still, you should see his bat speed's pretty good. His EVs are still like 90 miles an hour. Like there's juice there still. Is the big concern is he's not taking walks anymore. Is that something where he just thinks he is something else? What if you could adjust his approach a little bit? As long as you can hit the ball hard like that, I think there's still room for Goldie in the league and maybe on that team. But maybe it's like you're not going to be – maybe your eye isn't something where you can be a 400 OBP guy anymore would be my belief. But maybe you can just – whatever you're doing, swing a little bit less, be more selective. I don't know what his answer is. But that's not a third baseman. But I'm really perplexed. I almost cut Goldie in a shallowish dynasty today, and I didn't do it yet. I'm like – all it takes is 1 month here. He won the MVP 2 years ago. Isn't life crazy how fast things can change? MVP 2 years ago too. We're over here like looking at it's sub 300 OBP. It's not really acceptable. Manny Machado, he's younger than these other guys. He's 32.
Mm-hmm.
Just turned 32.
Has had a decent year too with the
I would, yeah,
injuries.
I wouldn't, yeah, and he's got 20 home runs. This is an okay year. Beginning of the end, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how he does. I wouldn't really put him. I'd say that I'm more concerned about Arenado. Arenado's looking like there's a very good chance he doesn't get to 20 home runs this year. You're not getting 20 home runs from your third baseman. It's like I don't like that for your offense. I mean, you could be between 15 and 20, but I mean, it's weird. It's yeah, he's not like a speedy guy. I guess you think of like if you're getting that guy, he's going to be at least offer some speed. Yes, you're getting like basically the best defense in the league, but still, it's tricky. And Bregman's been a guy like I feel like the league has like most fantasy guys have wanted and expected to be bad for a while, and he
Just
just won't
doesn't.
and he won't go away.
Yep.
And he's actually only 30. He's
Having a
young.
good year too.
Yeah, he's
Decent
having
year.
what?
He's having a
I wouldn't
decent
say
year.
good. I mean,
Decent. 21 home
well, what
runs, right?
we're accustomed to his career 367 OBP, and he's 316.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's not good.
it's not. He's hitting the ball like basically the same. His contact in terms of like 260 batting average. The home runs, yeah, he's hitting actually kind of more power than the last few years ever since the cheating. um, so it's a weird year. I wouldn't say the end is near for him, but I don't think Alex Bregman ages well in terms of his profile. I don't think he has that raw athleticism. He needs things to go just right, which is I think what's kept Goldie around for to this long is that he's just a strong physical athlete. It's just a strong man. We're seeing that Arenado maybe doesn't have that brute strength. He just relies on that pull, and when that's not happening, it's over. I'd say I'm concerned most about Arenado out of those three, then Bregman. Then Bregman, because frankly, yeah, that OBP is not good, but yeah, Bregman and Machado, they'll be around for a few more years. I wouldn't say you're on death's door, but next time you see them peaking, like next season, maybe try to sell.
Yeah, and I think for Bregman, really is going to depend on does he stay in Houston with the Crawford boxes, because
Yeah,
he has pull side
great.
power too, and you take him out of Houston. Uh, I'm interested. I'm really interested to see what that profile looks like, and maybe it's a wash. Maybe with all the drama that happened with the trash cans and the cheating and all that, I think he lost a lot of his star power from that, even more so than Correa and Altuve. He took a really big hit. Um, who knows? We'll see.
Well, he's a 40 home run hitter at one point, which I don't think. Yeah,
Yeah, but those were juiced ball years, weren't they?
yeah, it's still a lot though. 41
There's a
home.
lot.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
For a guy that's 5'9", yeah, that was shocking to see
He's
the
six
power.
foot. I would. I mean,
Is he?
He's listed at it.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter too much. As I mentioned, Altuve, who is
Folks, we all want Bregman to be 5'9". We're like, nah.
it's crazy. He just the hate he gets. I'm staring at him with the potential of taking him in like 10 picks here as my third baseman in a
He's got
startup,
such
and
a
I'm like,
cheesy face, you know.
well, it doesn't help that he has the cheating attached to him. That's what the problem, right? Like I didn't dislike Bregman that much before the cheating, and as soon as the cheating comes in, everyone's like, "Oh, screw that guy," like, "Oh, he just ran straight into him." Okay, Doc. Let me check our time here. We are sitting at about 49 minutes. We're doing good.
Yeah.
I have a list here for you. We're gonna go real quick here for pitchers that went in the startup. It went Skubal, Skeens, Kirby. Kirby's interesting. Strider, Burns, Cease, Hunter Green before the injury, Cole Reagans, and this is not ours, but this is similar to ours. I think this is a very good depiction of where value is. Cole Reagans, Logan Gilbert, Zach Wheeler, Yamamoto, Luis Castillo, and the list goes on. You have Crochet, Perez, Jared Jones, kind of mixed in here. When you're looking at overall rankings, I know you took Reagans in our 30 man. Are you looking to get one dominant player, or are you looking to sprinkle in two or three of these names within the top 20, 25?
For a dynasty startup,
Yes.
For me, it just depends where I'm at. This year, we found a couple things. We found that pitching. This is a good year for pitching. I think I can say that in terms of being able to find it. Maybe that was just me. My pitching is awesome in all leagues. I don't know why. I was never a pitcher. I never prided myself on being like the pitching guy, but My pitching in essentially every league is awesome. Um, but it felt like I could find the pitchers. That said, I don't want to leave a draft without my ace. You know, I don't care. I know guys go down with injuries, but I want my guy. I want my ace. I'm gonna try for it, especially in a dynasty setting. You know, you, you got to get your guy because they're so reliable, and frankly, has maybe it's easy in some leagues to find pitching. Some 30-man teams, 30-man leagues, it's not. Um, the deeper the league, the more realistic it is to real baseball, where it's hard to find good pitching. Dude, you know what is a hilarious thing? If this is really the list from your league, what did Justin Steele do to everyone's mothers? What did this guy do? What did this guy do? He's a perennial Cy Young kind of guy.
I'm
Like,
staring at a 30 man, and you took Reagan, and then you immediately took Steele, and I kind of chuckled because of what you just said. So,
I
you want
can't
to
believe it.
know? Well, it's two pitchers. So, Steele went. It's hard to tell because we did a minors draft. So Steele went ninth round, 10th pick. Nola went ninth round, 12th pick. And this was a majors draft. So you're not taking minor league guys unless they're in the major leagues. Bybee also fell. He went ninth round, first pick. So they were right after the Valdez. It's crazy because Steele is, especially in a redraft, so safe, like such a safe number 2, and nobody wants him.
I don't know, man. What do you? I mean, even like, why is he even near Nola? I'm so like I basically get mad. I'm at this point like
Well,
I'm like,
Nola on a
look at his
good year
numbers.
has the
You know what he's doing
strikeouts.
this year? He's got a 3.07 ERA, and people will say, oh, ERA doesn't matter. What if he does it 3 years in a row? 3.07, 3.06, 3.18. That's the last 3 years, guys. He's got a crazy whip this year too. The kid, and he's only he just turned 29, which as a pitcher, he could still have 10 years in him. What were
Yeah,
you
but
saying? I steamrolled you because I'm passionate about this one. What were you saying?
people are scared that he's Dallas Keuchel. I'm not, but people definitely, I feel like, are scared off by what Dallas did. Dallas was a control pitcher, had the Cy Young year, and an overproducing year, and everyone was waiting for Dallas to fall off the cliff, and he didn't for 3 or 4 years. And then when he did fall, it was a really, really bad fall. And I can see how the lefty profile, the control pitcher, the lacking of a put out, like real put out pitch, real put out velocity reminds people of Dallas Keuchel. But like we've seen it, we've had this conversation before about Steele. We've seen enough now to know that at least right now, he's a very safe pitcher.
Yeah, I'm seeing Keuchel between the years of 2014 and 2020. He gave a 3.25 ERA, a 1.19 WHIP. Yeah, his strikeouts are considerably worse than Steele. Steele's is more like a 9K9 kind of guy,
Okay.
whereas he was a 7K.
7. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big difference. So I don't really know what Keuchel was doing for quality starts, but I know Steele's a monster for that. Regardless, so what does it take? So if Keuchel did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. 7 years. 1 year wasn't that good. So 6 out of 7 years are pretty darn good baseball. It's like you're still wanting him to fail, right? It's like
Yeah. And
weird.
it's the same Bregman concept. It's like you're projecting failure because of a lack of what I would say is probably physicality, right? We're talking
His
about lack
metrics.
of velocity metrics for sure. But
He's
it's
got 2
like,
pitches.
but they don't. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted Steele in this league because he fell, but in a 12 man, everyone falls. Everyone's being sniped and everyone's falling. Like 12 mans are so
Yeah,
hard to draft because it's the wild west of value. And yeah, I mean, again, 9th, 10th round for Steele. That's insane.
great value.
Yeah. Okay, Doc, last segment of the day. We're going to talk about some of the minor leaguers, and this will be stuff we get into more in the offseason, as you had kind of mentioned, but I just kind of want to kick it off right now. We've seen a lot of our favorite names, a lot of the guys that we have written about graduate. We're seeing what I think and some in the industry think is a little bit weaker an overall talent of a top 100, maybe a depleted top 100. So I wanted to ask you if you had a couple names that you would stake your fantasy, crown on, your belt on, to be guys that are really big impact / fantasy stars. Who are some guys within the top 100 that you are sold on right now?
That they are in the top 100.
Yes, in the top 100.
So this sounds like a almost too obvious one. I'm going to start getting really loud about Sam Basayo. What it's like? Is it the baseball fatigue? What did he do? It's again 19 years old. He just turned 20, and I saw someone not getting into it, but questioning Ross Jensen, saying, "Hey man, why do you have Basayo so high? I'm not really blown away by his numbers." And then Ross is like, "Well, they're pretty good numbers for like a 19-year-old at Double A." And he's like, "I guess, but still." And then I'm like, "Dude, look at the last 3 months. Like he actually, what he did last year, he got better as the year went on as he ascended." Basayo is doing it again. He's got like something dumb. It's like a 300 batting average, for something OBP over the last 3 months at Double A, and he just got promoted to Triple A as a fresh 20-year-old. Sorry, dude. What? Like what? This is prodigious. This is a prodigy. This is unbelievable, and he's entering an amazing organization. It has to be people are just don't believe that the Orioles are going to play this guy because he's a catcher. It's like, oh yeah, like you think they're just gonna let him simmer down? No, I don't necessarily know if he's gonna be opening day next year. I would kind of he'd have to really, really, really force his way, but this is it's not unprecedented, but it's like we don't really. This is not something you see. This is not something you see. He's doing an abnormal thing, Sam Basayo. Like I said, like when I say fresh 20-year-old, 2 weeks ago he was a teenager. That's how fresh. And so, yeah, and we're over here getting hyped up. I'm hyped up about some other guys I can get into. Max Clark. This guy's not that much older than Max Clark. Is he? Like, aren't they the same age? I mean, it's close, right? Max Clark's at high A. People get excited about Kevin McGonigal. Same kind of deal. A guy at high A. Never mind. This Basayo has now put himself on the door of the big leagues as essentially he's the number one non-debuted prospect. Is he not unanimous? Is he not the unanimous number one non-debut prospect? Who do you have in front of him, if so? I have more names, but I'll ask you that question first.
Well, it's the same argument for my non-debut. It's Roman Anthony, both 20 years old. Basalo is younger. He had a birthday August 13th. So, next year in 2025, it will be his age 20 season. Whereas Rome on the other page there is an April birthday. So right off the bat, he'll turn 21. Rome for me showed the power in the skills competition, has shown the power at Double A, also promoted to Triple A, has a little bit more speed, 16 stolen bases this year, but their numbers are incredibly, similar. 16 home runs for Basayo. Rome has 18. 16 stolen bases for Rome, 9 for Basayo. I have no idea. I'd have to watch Basayo to see his sprint speed. I feel like that'll fall off a little bit. I feel like Basayo is really going to be a 280 to 300 hitter with power and counting stats, and OBP's at 355. Rome's is at 369. Both of these players, in my opinion, are 1-2. Nobody else should be like the Walker Jenkins. No, he hasn't shown anything. Like these two players at 20 years old at AAA have the chance to be the best players on this list.
So fun how it plays out, right? Like we all like these guys, but now they're and all of a sudden they're 1-2.
Yep.
All of a sudden they're 1-2. So it's so exciting. I agree with you there. Other guys that stake my name to. I'm a Max Clark truther. Like what we were talking about earlier, right? With the James Wood thing, the opposite of a James Wood is a Trea Turner, right? A guy who's basically going to run until he retires. And so Max Clark, his ceiling, which is a crazy high thing to say, is Trea Turner with a better approach, which is unbelievable. That's a ceiling, right? So now I'm looking at his stats. I've been so busy, I haven't checked his stats. Good. His stats are essentially the same thing. Like he's got a nice and high OBP and a solid average at high A, which is what he was doing at low A, which is interesting. He's kind of just boring us with like solid play. He's just doing what he should be doing at each level. He's not doing all over the place. He's slow. They're treating him slowly. They're bringing him up slowly. If this was the Angels, I think he'd be at Double A already. I'm kind of glad they're not. No, seriously though, right?
Yeah.
Because he hasn't done anything to show he shouldn't be keep going. But no, keep him. Let him develop that power. You know, at high A, he's got 2 home runs in 24 games. It's like whatever. Bunch of doubles though, which is exciting. A double power can turn to home run power. You know, he's got lightning speed. I think people are. It's a guy. It's an easy guy to overlook because this is the thing. I'm gonna start saying this more often. In the minors, everyone's stealing. So you have guys like Basayo or maybe even
Yes.
Wood are like stealing all the time. Other guys who just are are not going to steal in the big leagues. Clark's going to steal in the big leagues. I think Max Clark is. If someone said gun to your head is Max Clark, you will live or die if you're correct on this. Will Max Clark steal 50 bases in the major leagues one day? I'm saying yes. As every year, probably, definitely not. But you're telling me between the ages of 21 and 35, he can do it once. Yes, he's got that natural speed, and he's going to get on base so much. That's the thing. And that's why I'm excited about another guy here who I didn't even write down, but Caleb Durbin. This is like the opposite end. We're talking about like top 10 prospects. Dude, I wrote an article today. It's called The Monday Smoke, similar to the Sunday Smoke, but it's on Monday. New York Yankees fans will love this guy. Or they know this guy. They're the only ones who seem to know who he is. Caleb Durbin's like 5'6" to 5'8", depending on where you're reading. This guy he's getting on base. For like the last 2 years at a 400 clip. He's doing it at AAA. He's actually adding some pop. He's like, you see this guy. He's like Dan Ugla. He's just like this all neck. He's starting to show some pop. It doesn't even matter if he has pop. 400 something OBP right now in the last couple of years at Double and AAA. And he's like looking like he could be literally like a 30 to 50 base stealer, and he'll be in the New York lineup as likely their super utility guy. They're playing him. He just busted up his hand, by the way, which usually saps power. He missed a couple months with a broken hand. He's popping more bombs, so it's like so exciting. They've been playing him at shortstop, second base, third base, and the outfield. That's fun for fantasy. He'll get random play. He'll get like enough playing time just from being that guy. So that's a guy. Those are a few guys. I'll let you say a few names. If I have time, I'll drop my last two. But yeah, Caleb Durbin, man, that's someone who like he's available in basically every fantasy league right now, and you can get him, and he could be extremely valuable, especially if you're in an OBP league.
Yeah, and you have a name on there that I'm going to let you talk about to finish the show because it's going to be the pitcher. You have another position player there that we both really like a lot. So there are definitely some names that we fall in line with, but I think for me, Jackson Ferris for the Dodgers is just really showing the best outcome we could have expected going from the Cubs to the Dodgers in that Michael Busch trade. Ferris had a high release point with the Cubs, had strikeout pedigree and upside, but had a lot of walks. Coming in the Dodgers organization, it didn't flash right away, but he's really starting in the second half to finish the years to show some real ace upside. And as a lefty, that's what you like to see. I think Ferris is going to continue to work his way up. I think it's hard right now. If you were to ask me Thomas White or Jackson Ferris, who I'd rather have, and if you asked me just a month ago, it was a pretty easy conversation. Ferris is more developed. He has more pedigree in the minor leagues than Thomas White, who is, building a name for himself. Thomas White is another name. You got me on him, and I've fallen in love with what we've seen so far. Rarely do we see a guy of his age from the left side be able to dominate. And then, we're gonna have to see when he comes up, but usually it takes lefties a little bit longer. And he has surpassed Nolan Meyer, as we mentioned 2 weeks ago, and that itself is impressive. Last name is Eric Batanti for the Brewers. He's a very hot name in the industry right now. Showcase power as the 3rd-round pick last year. Him and Cooper Pratt were guys that a lot of people liked in FYPD. I was able to grab him in a few places and just kind of see where the power landed. And he's really showing, I think, some Lazaro Montes metrics-esque. He needs to cut the strikeouts down a little bit like Montes did as he developed. But I think we could be talking about a top 30 prospect if he can. Those are the guys I'm kind of staking my name with. The last one would be Luke Adams, also a Milwaukee Brewer. But we need to see some more things with his game. And it's a different class before you finish off with your guys than it was just a year ago. We had so many top end potential superstars. I think right now, past Rome and Basayo, we have to really get projectable. And you did a good job with Max Clark with that, because it's like, what skills can we actually project right now?
Yeah, and I like Luke Adams too. I mean, it's got a crazy OBP. That's a great place to start from. If you can get on base,
Yes.
if you can have that eye, and you have tools, like, dude, we're talking. We'll talk. Yeah, and people keep saying, it's a thinned out. Well, what is a thinned out top 100? It's thinned out. Yeah, lots of talent, but at the same time, there's just less top prospect pedigree baked in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're so used to having our guys, right? No, it's been Cruz and Holiday and Caminero. We've just had these guys for like a year, right? So we're not used to, like, it's kind of feels weird to say Basayo, Anthony 1-2. It's like, what?
It
Really?
is weird.
But it's like, no, you look at the other names. You say those are the guys, and then like, you instinctively think that's thin. But then you look at some of the things that other guys are doing and what they could do going forward, and then you look at the new players coming in. It's like, no, there'll be some studs to fill their places in one way or another. And so before the pitcher, JJ Weatherholt's one of those guys. This whole class, like, we could spend a bunch of time talking about them, so I won't. But JJ Weatherholt just lacing balls, and Nick Kurtz is looking fantastic. These guys are, I haven't done my
Did you see Cam Smith?
Cam Smith's looking pretty sharp.
Six home runs in a row. So, well, 6 games with a home run,
Pushing
6 straight
more.
games. Yeah.
Like, dude, like, like, they're showing up already. And these are just the guys from, these are kind of your premium first rounders. There's going to be guys who maybe maybe they're doing okay right now, and they're second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth round picks, whatever picks. And they're just doing okay without any brand name recognition. And then next year, they just, after an offseason with a pro organization, they develop something, and it's going to happen. It's not a maybe. There will be guys like that. We don't know who they are yet. It's so fun. It's a new game that starts fresh. And all offseason, we get a dream about these prospects, and then they come up and strike out 20 times in a row and get sent down. It's great. And our dreams get shattered, and it starts over again. No. But then next year, some of these guys, like, the fun thing is, maybe Merrill he learns how to take a walk. Whoa, superstar now. Now he's a superstar. Or he never does, and his power drops back off, and he's kind of a boring guy. This stuff happens, right? Like, who would have thought Corbin Carroll would have lost so much momentum, right? So without going on, but it's just something to remember, folks. Find your guys you like, and find the tools you like, and their character. That's what scouts look at. They look at who this player is, who you want to carry on your team year to year. It's a big thing in Dynasty, and so that's actually a great segue for my last player, which is Travis Sikora, Washington Nationals. And this guy, I like this kid. There's something about him. It seems like a couple of leagues I've been lucky enough to get White and Sikora, but they seem to be kind of valued similar right now. So you might have to pick one or the other. I like them both a lot. Different kind of people, different areas of the country. White's a Massachusetts kid, and then he's kind of skinnier. 6'5", pretty big kid, pretty tall. But Sikora is from Texas. He's 6'6", 230, big kid. He's a fireballer. His fastball, they talk about where it sits up mid to upper 90s, but man, it can touch triple digits, and it's something that's really exciting to me. His slider and his splitter, they're looking kind of nasty. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's low A. He needs a promotion, but I just, with my heart, because I like the way he was talking. He sounded mature. He sounded like a good kid with a head on his shoulders, for a teenager especially. Just from listening to him talk and watching him pitch, he's like, yeah, I like Nolan Ryan, so I do this little big leg kick. I'm like, that's so unnecessary, but it's working, right? But he's just, no, that wasn't the big character thing, but that was just another cool bonus. But point being, I liked him. The results weren't super there early on because they were babying him. He was going for 2, 3, 4 innings maybe. And then I kept him at the end of my top 100 prospect rankings just because I knew there was some serious upside. Literally number 100. And then June 8th, I think I put my last rankings out. And June 13th, they started taking the training wheels off. And ever since then, I think he's got I put out an article today with the numbers, something like a 1.5 ERA, 88 strikeouts to 14 walks in 57 innings. Those are the numbers, and that's incredible. And he needs a promotion immediately, so I can I want to know how much of this is real, how much of this is. It's not a college kid beating up on low A. This is a teenager doing his thing. It's impressive. No matter what, it's impressive. And I think we're going to see Travis Sikora. I have him as I have a hard time imagining myself not putting him as a top 50 prospect right now overall. I mean we have to go over who are in terms of non-debuted pitchers. Quinn Matthews, Jackson Jobe, Andrew Painter, Travis Sikora. Who I mean I'm missing Cade Horton. It's a problem with his injury, right? It's hard to say where he's going to be at. He struggled a little bit at AAA. Still have him up there. But who else am I missing here? I mean, there's a couple guys, but those are the guys, man. Are they not the guys? Thomas White's looking pretty serious too, right? I don't know who I like more right now, but it doesn't really matter. What the point is, Travis Sikora is still not even on people's radars. He's only 23% owned in Fantrax. Okay, that number
Yeah. Yeah, he frustrates me because it's so incredible how, you and I kind of talked about him this offseason. What I liked, the only thing I really liked about him was the two things: his size and then his commitment to Texas.
Yeah.
Just had a weird feeling about that commitment to Texas where I was like, I like that a lot. Roger Clemens went to Texas. And, now we're seeing the industry explode. And it's like, to your point, you had him ranked in the top 100. That's even more ballsy than I had. I couldn't put him in there without a little bit. And Doc, now I might even argue with you that out of all the names you listed, I think from an upside perspective, he might be the best. And I would go as far as to say, like, we're starting to see some flashes of Paul Skeens' profile. He throws a hard fastball, hard biting slider, and he throws a splitter. Those are all things that Skeens is known for right now. And a big piece in the 2023 draft was that, Pittsburgh chose to take Skeens 1-1. That was essentially where Washington wanted to go. They wanted to grab Skeens and pair him up with some of the Juan Soto pieces and start to build. Well, we could be looking at Washington now here, having taken Dylan Cruz and maybe getting a top 10 potential major league pitcher in the third round as a high school arm. You are right with the fact that we need to see a promotion, but what we've seen so far is ace upside. Would you agree?
I said it today on Twitter. I just before our podcast, so I won't blame you. It was literally like 10 minutes before we started. I said, ... I'm going to say it in all caps, ace upside.
Nice.
I can say it. And that is upside. Is that a guarantee? Nothing's a guarantee. Could blow his arm out tomorrow. I pray to God not. It's terrible. But, this, and I like he's got this little blend too. So he seems like he's a kind of a, you heard him talk on draft day. He sounded like kind of this wholesome, maybe homeschool kid. He's all Christianed up, and I like him. He seems like a nice, sweet kid. And then and for a big guy, but lately he's starting to drop some edgier quotes. He says, "No, I want to make the rest of the teams kind of pay for not taking me. I want to reward the Nationals." That's even a better way to put it. I want to reward the Nationals to show them they didn't make a mistake. I'm like, oh, dude, this is like, he's like the perfect blend of, it's not pure ego, but he's not a softie either. He's just like, I don't know, man. This is scout talk, but when you combine these intangibles with a huge body, it looks like a workhorse, and filthy stuff, possibly 3 really mean pitches, dude. I remember I saw Chris Clegg the other day. He posted the whiffs. It was like 8, 8, and 6 on each pitch, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is looking pretty crazy.
Yeah, he's looking elite, and I like that you mentioned his determination to prove the league wrong. I do think there's a second side of that, which is how many teams actually thought they could sign him, because he was a higher signing bonus guy. We've talked about that. He probably had a relationship with the Nationals, and they probably were able to work out the number that he would sign for. I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of other teams were just scared away.
Weird comment, though.
Weird comment, because it's the proper comment when you think about he was a third round pick. Like, why did nobody else call? Mm-hmm. And if it was because they just thought I was too good and they didn't have the money to sign me, why not call? Because it wasn't like he signed for $5 million in the third round. He signed for over slot and significantly over slot, but other teams have the ability to make that move as well. Washington was just the one to do it. And I think we're going to look back in 5 years and see Dylan Cruz and Sikora's name next to each other in the same draft, and we're just going to think to ourselves, how is that even possible? And that's what is really exciting about FYPD as well as the draft.
Yeah, man. In our big 30-man salary cap league, I'm still so annoyed that I couldn't. Friggin' the one guy who got Sikora, he knew the same thing. He had a good feeling about him. I said, I hate you, bro. I couldn't prime all year. Anyway,
I mean, the 30 man is so like
I
you're
got
just
White.
you're not going to get your guys.
Yeah.
Not all of them, at least, right? Like I'm in a 20 man where the same thing happened, where it was going into the draft. It was Pratt, Batanti, Sikora, Thomas White, in the back half, in like the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds. And in my 20 man, I think I got 2 or 3 of them, just because you start getting more teams, more picks, right? 20 turns to 40, turns to 60, turns to 80, turns to 100 by the time you hit the 5th round. That's a lot of players taken.
Yeah. Man, we covered a lot today.
Yeah, we did, Doc. That's all I have for everybody. Anything before we go?
Yeah. I'm your Huckleberry.
We will catch you guys next week.